Shoulder impingement is a relatively common occurrence, which is easy to resolve as long as you understand why you have it and what you need to accomplish to resolve it. The typical rehab program, which has you strengthening the rotator cuff and working on pulling your shoulder blades back and down, lacks the insight of truly understanding the influences occurring around your shoulder. So I'm going to be clearing those up and introducing you to some exercises that will help resolve the cause of your shoulder impingement more efficiently. Shoulder impingement typically presents as pain in the front, top, or side of your shoulder during movements such as reaching overhead, out to the side, or behind your back. The pain you feel is due to excess compression on contents within your subacromial space, such as your bicep tendon, tendons of the rotator cuff, and/or bursa. Normally, our subacromial space is fully compressed at our end ranges of motion. However, when you lack movement options at the shoulder, you'll fully compress this area early on in your range of motion, and everything beyond that, you're just superimposing excess compression on that area. This excess compression creates an inflammatory response, which over time, as you accumulate more and more stress on that area, it can eventually lead to pain and discomfort. In order to resolve your shoulder impingement and get back to the activities you were doing without pain, we want to restore movement options at the shoulder in order to eliminate the excess compression while allowing things to heal. Resting alone may reduce the inflammatory response, but will not resolve your movement limitations, so resting alone is not encouraged. If we simplify the motions of our shoulder, there are combined motions that can be broken into two groups: external rotation measures and internal rotation measures. External rotation measures are shoulder external rotation, flexion, and abduction, and internal rotation measures are shoulder internal rotation, extension, and adduction. No matter which direction your joints move in, there is a rotational component that needs to happen. For example, when we bring our arm overhead, there is relative motion that needs to happen between the shoulder blade and the head of the humerus. The first 60 degrees of shoulder flexion, we have an external rotation bias. From 60 to 120 degrees, we have an internal rotation bias, and the last 120 to 180 degrees, we re-externally rotate. If we're compressed through our upper back, we'll have limited external rotation measures. And if we're compressed through the sternum and chest, we'll have limited internal rotation measures. If you're compressed on both sides, you'll be limited in all measures. In order to get an accurate representation of which ones are limited on you and which ones to address first for the most efficient results, you'd ideally want to have these addressed. However, for this video, we're going to simplify this process down to help restore both. Now, it's important to note that flexibility and joint mobility are not the same. We want to restore joint mobility in order to free up the shoulder joint. For more about the difference between the two, check out our video on joint mobility versus flexibility. Now, in a perfect world, the shoulder blade sits nice and congruently on the rib cage, the head of your humerus sits congruently on the center of the fossa, and the shoulder muscles surrounding your shoulder help your shoulder blade and arm bone work dynamically with each other to move your shoulder through its full excursion without any additional compression. When the bones that make up the shoulder complex interact congruently with each other, the muscles surrounding the shoulder have a normal length-tension relationship at rest. However, due to the activities we perform, our body type and structure, natural asymmetries, etc., it is not uncommon for the relationship between these bones to be suboptimal, which interferes with the available motion at the shoulder and the length-tension relationship of muscles surrounding the shoulder, biasing some into concentric or contracted positions at rest, and others into lengthened or eccentric positions at rest. Muscles that are biased into the shortened position have more leverage to work and typically get overworked, whereas those with less leverage to work typically get underworked. These asymmetries at the shoulder lead to some positions being more restricted than others, and lead to certain areas repeatedly taking more stress than others. The goal of these exercises is to help restore the congruency of our rib cage and shoulder blade, which will in turn help restore the position of the humeral head in the fossa to free up space in the shoulder. In order to do that, we're going to be working on reaching activities, progressively moving into more flexion. We also have a video on reaching which you may want to look at as well. These can be assisted or resisted. If you're very compressed and stiff, you may want to start with the assisted ones, whereas if you're lax around the shoulder, you may want to start with the resisted ones. If you're neither, you can follow along as is. Now, I've broken these down into 3 phases based on sequentially creating expansion to allow for a progressive improvement in shoulder flexion with less compression. The first phase will have shoulders reaching roughly 60 degrees. The second phase will have shoulders reaching at roughly 90 degrees, and the third phase will progress to 120 degrees and more. Set up in the split stance with the leg back on the same side as the arm performing the reach. Shift your weight back onto that back leg. Let that hand get pulled forward, shoulder blade wrap around your back, keeping those shoulders square. From there, you're going to exhale all the way out through your mouth, keeping those ribs back, letting that hand get pulled a little further. Pause for 3 to 5 seconds, and slowly, silently inhale in through your nose. On every exhale, you want to think of trying to make that reach a little further. And as you do so, you want to think of moving that sternum gently over to the side, getting stretched, and that should enhance the stretch in that upper back. Make sure as you're performing this, you are not crunching through this exercise. Perform several breaths and relax. For this exercise, we're going to have a resistance band around our wrists. We're going to place our hands and forearms against the wall. Now, just to set up for this exercise, I want to have my hips under me. I don't want to be leaning forward into the wall. You can either have your feet together, or you can stagger your stance. Either way, you're having your pelvis under your rib cage. From there, we're trying to line our arms up so that our wrists are in line with our elbows and in line with our shoulders. So once we have that, what we're going to do is gently press our elbows into the wall so that we're pushing our chest away. You should feel your shoulder blades start to wrap around your back gently, and we're going to maintain that position for anywhere between 20 and 45 seconds. You want to make sure you avoid over crunching as you do this. You'll notice that you're over crunching if you're just kind of bringing everything together on the front side. All you're looking for is a gentle push away from the wall. For this standing row, we're going to set up in this position here. All our weight through our lead leg, toes on the back. We're going to get a nice long reach. Make sure as you're getting this reach, you're not letting your upper body twist. You're keeping your ribs back, feeling a nice stretch through your upper back, and rowing. As you row back, you're thinking almost bringing your chest through. Your elbow should be finishing more or less by your side, shoulder blade coming back. Inhale as you get a reach, exhale as you row. We're going to set up in this hook lying position, find a little tuck of the pelvis, place a little pressure through our feet to keep our tailbone up and away from the ground. From there, we're going to reach one arm up towards the ceiling, feeling that shoulder blade just wrap around your back gently. The other arm relaxing out by our side. You're going to hold this position as you take several deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. The weight is optional. We're going to set up in this all fours position with hands under shoulders and hips just ahead of knees. Now, if your wrists give you any trouble, you can walk your hands slightly ahead of shoulders. Gently push your chest away from the ground, feeling those shoulder blades wrap around your back. Avoid arching or fully flexing your back as you perform these. Now, once you're in position, maintain it, keep that pressure through your arms, and let those knees hover off the ground about an inch or two. Maintaining this neutral spine, you're going to keep your head and neck relaxed and hold for the allotted time. Breathe in through your nose and exhale all the way out through your mouth. This exercise we'll be doing a half kneeling row with the pulley anchored up high. We're going to keep our weight shifted back, so a little heavier on this back knee. The opposite leg is going to be up from the hand we're using here for the rows. We're going to start by letting this hand get pulled forward, feeling that shoulder blade wrap around your back. Try not to let your shoulders open. Keep them square. The other hand is going to come back as if you had just rowed. Inhale in this position. Exhale, row down with this arm. Reach with the other. As you row, your elbow is leading the way and your shoulder blade is going to follow. So by the time you finish, this elbow should be right around midline or slightly behind. You don't want your shoulder dumping forwards. Again, inhale at the top. Exhale, row. Head's going to stay facing forwards. Set up in this tall plank position, push your chest away from the ground, find a slight tuck of that pelvis, push through your arms as far back as you can comfortably go, and return to that starting position with those shoulder blades wrapped around your back. As you push away, you're going to keep your knees straight, let those heels drop towards the floor. You're going to inhale as you push back, exhale as you come back to that starting position. In this half kneeling position, you're going to have a band looped overhead. You're going to start by finding a tuck of the pelvis. From there, you're going to keep your weight back. So the weight should be a little heavier on the back leg. You're thinking of your rib cage moving back as your hand gets pulled forwards. You should feel that shoulder blade wrap around your back. From there, we're going to exhale, let the hand get pulled forwards, and we're going to drop the opposite shoulder towards the hip and close down the opposite side. Inhale in through your nose. Exhale all the way out. Every exhale, you want to think of dropping the shoulder down a little bit more and letting this hand get pulled forwards a little bit more as well. We're going to take several breaths here. In terms of your head and neck, you're going to make a slight rotation over to the right side here, or whichever side is getting stretched, and hold there as you take several breaths. Pause at the end of your exhale for 3 to 5 seconds. Slow, silent inhaling through your nose.